What's up, everybody? It's Friday night. Welcome to the only skeptical show on the internet that summons the spirits. I've been waiting for a while to put that up. And do not adjust your TV sets because, yes, my hair is blue. It really is blue. I decided that I wanted to do something with it, and producer Donna, who is off to the side here, helped me with it. So she's the one that actually dyed it blue. So it looks great as long as I'm staring straight at you. But when I do this, then you can see my scalp and my bald patch back there. And it's really bad. So I try to stay looking straight at you. Anyway, so with that said, I'm going to put up my rules here. We're going to go over the... Oh, I'm looking at everybody. We got a lot of people in the room tonight. Wow. My guest must be popular. And I know he's all excited because I can see him in the background. All right, so we got Tiffany, John, JD, Stacy, Diane, Barry, Donna's here too, Anna, Jess, John Michael without an H. What's up? Ryan,
Diana,
John, Diana. I think I'm trying not to repeat names, but I think there's a couple.
Stacey.
Yeah, I think I got them all.
Brandy's here.
Brandy, woo! All right, so the rules, because these are important. Every place has to have rules, and I have fun rules. So rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask any kind of paranormal related question that your little heart desires, and I will certainly give you my skeptical opinion. And when I have a guest, like tonight, they will give you their opinion too. So we all work out. It's like a win-win-win.
Yay!
Rule number 2 is I don't know everything, and neither do any of my guests. So if we don't know the answer to the question, hopefully we will say, I don't know. Of course, I had some guests in the past that will give you an answer, even though we sometimes call bullshit. Anyway, but moving on. But I will look up your question and see if I can get you an answer either during the show or I'll write it down and look it up afterwards. Rule number 3 is listen to Patrick Swayze. Be nice. That's all. This is a show that's kind of laid back. It's socializing. It's to discuss things, to have friendly debates where we can get together over a couple drinks and just talk about paranormal topics. So if you have different points of view, that's cool, but keep it clean because producer Donna has the power to boot your ass.
And yeah, last week we booted a few.
Yes, we did. So we had a disturbance in the force last week and had to equalize that a little bit.
But now we know how to fix it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had a mess up. So we can briefly talk about that. Basically, the wrong person got booted.
No. We booted an extra person. The right person got booted.
Well, yeah, because that would, from a certain point of view.
We booted 2 people when only one was supposed to.
We didn't boot them. Someone booted them. And it took us, I think, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And even talking like live chat with StreamYard, they couldn't figure out how to get them back.
Yeah.
I finally figured out how to get them back and had to go back to StreamYard and tell them how to do it. So it doesn't matter. It worked out.
Yeah.
All right. So rule number 4 is please put a Q in front of your questions. If you're putting questions in the comments during the show, please do us a favor, put a Q in front of it because that lets us pick out the questions much easier, much faster, and get to them. And then finally, rule number 5, the most important golden rule of the entire show. Drink up. All right. With that said, I am going to bring on my guest. So my guest tonight is Aaron Galloway, and he has been in law enforcement for, I believe he said 19 years.
Yeah.
I see him shaking his head. Okay, so I was right. All right, cool. And he recently did a presentation for Phenomenology on biases. And it was a great presentation. It was almost like a last minute kind of thing, I think. And we'll talk about that more when he comes on. But we sat in, and it was a presentation. Myself and Tim Vickers and Dave Schumacher from 3 Tortured Souls, we all sat in on it. Producer Donna was there. A bunch of other people were there, and we enjoyed it. So we talked about it some more, and I wanted to get him on here to talk about it. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to get rid of my rules here. I'm going to put up my special guest frame. Look at that. And here comes Aaron. There he is.
Cheers, buddy.
Yay.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Well, thank you for having me on, Kenny.
You are welcome. You are
Excited to be
welcome.
here.
Now I can actually put this on full screen so I don't have to look at the comments anymore. Well, now I will. But so let's start at the very beginning. How did we met in Gettysburg?
We did.
Right?
Yep.
First time we were at the Gettysburg Ghost Exchange, I think.
For the grand opening.
Yeah, the grand opening. And you made an impression because anyone that brings me a bottle of rum the first time they meet me makes an impression. And I remember you.
I guess I know the way to your heart. So
Yes. Well,
yeah, that's a good one.
That's pretty way to my heart. I mean, rum. That's it. That's it. So it was great. We actually had a good conversation then, and we've talked a few times over it's probably been like 2 years now, right? I think something like that.
At least
Yeah.
longer than that.
We've talked on and off and on online.
Yeah, I sent you some advice for some pictures and some videos and stuff like that I captured.
Yeah.
Or that people have sent me, and then I can't explain it, and I send it to you, and you're like, oh yeah, it's this, in like seconds.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I dabble in this a little bit, so I got a few tricks up my sleeve. But so we went out to Phenomenology, and that was a paranormal conference. It was canceled last year. We finally got it going this year. Came out there and we talked. I think we talked a couple days before, maybe, or something. I forget when you told me about this, but you were doing a presentation.
It was only a couple days before they had one of the speakers that was actually sick and he couldn't make it. And I'm friends with the people who put it on. And I know how hard it can be to try to fill slots and get everything to line up. So I asked her, I said, hey, do you want me to fill in a slot? And she's like, sure, that'd be great. And I wanted to do something different that no one else has done. And I like people to learn things. Like, you should always take something, away from these conferences. Not just there's nothing wrong with going there. And I love going there and hearing all the stories and getting to meet all the para-celebrities and listen to all the ghost stories and and hear them speak. But I like going to places where I can actually learn something and take something away. Right. So I decided I think it was on Tuesday. I wanted to put together. That's when we were going to do it and put together the PowerPoint and the lesson plan for. I'm going to do one on bias and the paranormal. Okay. Because biases affect your daily life and how that can in turn go in and affect the paranormal and can affect you, your client, how you do even experiments and your evidence. Everything. It affects your daily life, and people don't know it. And I hate the term bias because it actually has a bias to it because it sounds negative. But as we'll get into later, biases are actually very helpful for us too. Yes, yeah, I agree. We've talked about this on the show before. I think I dedicated a whole show where we just talked about different biases, and people brought it up in the chat. And we had a couple people actually come on, like just jump in to the broadcast, and we talked a little bit. And then on Three Tortured Souls, which is the show I do Saturday nights with Tim and Dave, we've talked about biases. I think we each took like 5 different ones that we liked, and we just talked about them because they're really, really important. And to know your own biases is extremely important because you need to know what you're looking for, what you're filtering out, what you're ignoring, and maybe like pushing it aside because it doesn't fit in with you. You need to know that. And you may not even know you're doing it. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of them, they're subconscious. You don't even know. Your brain's just making a decision for you, and you don't even realize that it's doing it. Right. I mean, and we do it every day. Every day we're doing this multiple times, and it usually becomes second nature because I think we grow up with a lot of them. We get taught a lot of biases. And then how you're brought up and how. But I guess what influences you will also affect your biases later on in life. Right. So why? What inspired you? Like what really triggered this topic for you to do? Like I know you wanted to do something where people could learn, and I agree. I agree with that because I feel the same way. I don't like going. Let me say this right so I don't piss off too many people by accident. But I enjoy going to paranormal conferences. But I really don't like attending
the lectures because I don't find them to actually be lectures. For a lecture, it's like you said, you have to learn something. Mm-hmm. You know, it's gotta be someone that's a professional or an expert in their field, and they can pass on that knowledge and experience to your benefit. And sometimes I go to these talks. That's what I call them, just talks, because it's like they're telling the story of something. Like, I don't know, things come up like space cats. And I had to bring that up. Stuff like that. Or
that's a good story, though.
I'm sure it was, and maybe next time I'll sit in for it just to hear it. But like, there's some talks where you just don't learn anything. You come out just the same as you went in, or you come out dumber than you were when you went in. So I mean, it happens.
Talking, I guess.
It really happens. So go ahead. Tell me how did you decide to do biases?
Well, I was looking at like main one would be like a confirmation bias. And I was thinking about, it was actually inside of Ben Radford's book, I think. He was talking about different biases and confirmation biases. Mm-hmm. And actually, hang on, let's see how it and how the confirmation bias, like you and how it completely, once I understood like what it was, how it almost completely controls, well, not only confirmation bias, but all the biases, really control a lot of the paranormal, and how it really hinders, the growth of the field.
So what is confirmation bias for anyone?
Confirmation bias, it's when you want to label an idea or thing based on your already established opinion. Mm-hmm. And no matter what the results are, you take it and you twist the facts around to make it that way. It automatically fits whatever you think is right, and you ignore everything else that's wrong about it. So, for example, would be, and the paranormal would be like an EVP, and you're recording an EVP, and you are attempting to, and you ask, 30 questions, and you say, are you here? Can you do this? Can you do that? Or can you give me a sign? Can you give me a sign of your presence? And all of a sudden, something moves, a knock, or you capture something anomalous, and all of a sudden you go, oh, that's it. Well, you don't look at the other 30 times what you have to do. It doesn't make sense. Or what's that thing that comes up with the words at random? The Oculus. You may ask, what's your name? And, dresser. What's your name? Chair. What's your name? Tom. Oh, it says it's Tom. Well, now you're saying 100% this is Tom because I got this one piece of evidence. He goes, one piece of data. Right. One piece of data. And now you're ignoring all the rest of it, what made no sense. It didn't combine to it. Didn't make no sense at all. And now all of a sudden you're basing it saying, this is it because I have this one piece, ignoring everything else.
Yes, I come across that a lot when I have psychic readings and I sit down and I when you go through all the questions and they're constantly asking questions and maybe they get 2 or 3 things right, that are really right. And you're like, oh, okay. I've found a lot of people that already have that belief that psychics are real will sit down and they will take those 3 guesses that are right, those 3 correct guesses, and say, well, that's proof. That's absolute proof that this person is psychic. Yep. And they ignore the 27 times they got things wrong. It's basically the short version, the Cliff Notes version of confirmation bias is basically remembering the hits and forgetting the misses. Exactly. And that's it, because of your own beliefs and what you wanted. And what you
want to believe.
I have
to be true. And part of that comes with I have some of my biases written down over here, so I wouldn't forget about some of them.
That's okay.
Like the diagnosis bias, where you label things, based on your already established opinion on it. So, for example, and all these biases, like they all tie in together. For instance, what you're talking about with going and seeing the psychic, you may have an anchoring bias part of it, where they say, "Hey, you got to go see the psychic." She told me she gave me a reading, and she was absolutely right and dead on. Well, now all of a sudden you hear this piece of information, and now you're kind of anchored on that she is right. Your friend believes this, and then you have a diagnosis bias where you label things based on your initial opinion. So now all of a sudden, this person has opinion, you have an opinion, you're going in and you're saying, yes, this person, she's a psychic, she's right, and then it's going to feed in to your confirmation bias, where all of a sudden you're only focusing on those certain hits, that that the psychic gave you in the reading, and everything else, you're completely ignoring.
Anchoring bias.
You can probably get 90+% of that on a cold reading anyway, depending on who walks in.
Right. Yeah. Anchoring bias, I see that as pretty much your first impression. When you get your first impression of something, you base everything that comes after that on that first impression. Yeah. And that's your anchor.
Yeah, the anchoring bias also plays into a lot with the very first piece of information that you get. No matter how inaccurate it is, we always rely on the very first piece of information that we receive about something, no matter who it's from.
Right.
And a lot of that plays in with like we did the experiment in the phenomenology for the anchoring bias when I asked about the world's largest hamburger. And you can just see, like, when you give somebody even a shred of information, how all the guesses or the information that you're looking for will center around that one piece of information. If you don't give them that piece of information, the sky's the limit.
Okay.
You give somebody an anchor, and they anchor on that piece of information.
Right. Yeah.
And like how that can play into effect would be, like, say if you're going in and you have a client, you have someone who's experiencing some unknown activity in their house, and they just happen to watch a new Conjuring movie, that came out because it's based on a true story. Now all of a sudden, it's weird, huh?
I'm sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit, so I sneeze.
It's based on a true story, But now all of a sudden they go to work, and their coworker just saw that movie, and they're like, I just moved in this house, and there's some weird crap that's going on. And they're like, holy shit, your house is haunted. You have a demon, and they're completely wrong. But that's the very first piece of information that they have. They may anchor onto that, and no matter what you tell them, it's going to be hard. It can be really hard to try to pry them out,
right?
Of that piece of information. Which is why whenever we haven't done any residential cases in quite some time because of the COVID.
Okay.
But the most important question that I ask somebody, and what I really base if we're going out there to do their house, to do their case or not, is, are you willing to accept other terms or other causes of this haunting? Like if I say, this is what I think it is, I think you have a leaky pipe or this or that, and are you willing to accept that? And if they go, oh no, my house is definitely haunted, I don't even go out there. It's not worth my team's time.
Right. Okay.
Because even if I find that piece of information and I can, help, as you like to put it, solve that mystery. If they're not willing to accept that, there's not much I can really do to help them at that point.
So John Kennedy has a question. How is that different from belief bias? So belief bias, I have a definition here. I brought up a whole list of all these biases just so I had them at the ready. So the definition here is an effect where someone's evaluation of the logical strength of an argument is based by the believability of the conclusion. So I guess,
all the biases really, a lot of them, they play in together and they all kind of tie in together.
Right. And I guess in belief bias, it's more or less if they hear the conclusion, whether they believe it or not. That's pretty much what a belief bias is. It depends on if they believe what you come up with. So, yeah, if say we're evaluating a psychic reading, and I'm sorry I'm picking on psychics, but it's just the thing that first pops into my mind. But if we're evaluating a psychic reading and the person has the reading and they're like, oh, this is great, they got a couple things right, this is perfect, they're right on the money. And we come back and say, well, you know what? I was watching and I noticed they asked you a lot of questions and everything that they got right, you actually told them first. And then they just repeated it back to you. If they have a stronger belief in the psychic ability, they just might not believe what we come up with. And if they don't believe the conclusion, then they're just going to jump back into their preconceived belief. So I think that's how I would interpret it.
It's also a selective perception bias.
Yes. Where
we get, depending on your frame of reference, like your particular, I guess, beliefs, how you're going to interpret the information, that you're gathering, and how you will make it's almost conform to your belief and what you want to believe. And a lot of times with that, even if they're given another explanation that makes sense and can explain it, that goes back to, sorry, which other way, dog? dog's bothering me. Sorry. It goes back to our primal instincts. We all want to be seen as winners. We all want to win. And even if you're given a way out, but you truly believe in that, sometimes you're just hang on to it and you can't let it go.
Okay. JE's got a question. And I don't know if I warned you this was a Q&A show too. But
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. So
there you go. So have either of you been accused of confirmation bias by others? For example, being accused of ignoring compelling evidence for the paranormal and looking for a skeptical explanation. So you can go first, unless you want me to go first.
I'm saying I've never been, I wouldn't say accused of confirmation bias, but I'm definitely guilty of it.
Yeah.
Like before I started really opening, I guess, my eyes and really learning, a lot more about like cameras and sound, I would believe almost, anything was paranormal. And I would say, oh no, it has to be because, we got this, like if you have a ball roll, well, you got to have, a control, well, did the ball downstairs roll? Was it a train, a couple miles down the road that you can't even hear, that's vibrating the house and the balls, so definitely, I mean, I was definitely guilty of it, but yeah, I've never been, actually accused of it.
I have been, definitely. When it comes up, I usually, so I know I've done it, and especially when back in my ghost hunter days, I definitely did it because I just ignored any kind of scientific reasoning and just was like, yeah, this is my belief. I know it. I saw TV. I know what these look like. I know what this does. But then gradually, I think when I started switching over to a more skeptical side, there was a point where I was angry that I was like, I was a dumbass. I was stupid and I was really hard on myself. And I'm hard on myself anyway when I mess up. I really don't like when I mess up. So that kind of pissed me off, and I took my anger out on other people, and I went almost completely the other way in the cynicism, where I was just like, no, that's not a ghost. You're just dumb. You're stupid. And the confirmation bias was more or less I dismissed everything because I believed none of it existed, and that was it. I didn't even bother to look into it. But now I look into it, and I guess my philosophy is more or less going after the truth, whatever that might be. So I'm not going in there. I'm aware of my biases. I know that I have a skeptical slant. I know that I'm more prone to lean towards science rather than mysticism. So I'm aware of that. So when I'm investigating, I take that into account, and I second guess myself. Like I come to a conclusion and ask myself, hey, am I doing this just because I want it to go that way? Is this what I believe, quote unquote, or is this what the evidence is going with? And I ponder over that for like a day, and then if I have to rewrite or make note of my own biases, then I change things and move forward. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm constantly being accused of looking for skeptical explanations. I get "you're just a skeptic" line a lot, where that's the insult, or that's the explanation why something is still paranormal. It's because even if I give a logical explanation for it, I'm just a skeptic. Therefore, my opinion doesn't count. It's not as often anymore, which it's nice, but it still happens once in a while. So Brandon Lee, or Brandon B. I'm sorry. Wow. I need to put my glasses on. So I guess the question now is, do you still believe in the paranormal? I'm interested in exploring the topic myself, despite being the type to be considered highly skeptical. I've had some really weird stuff happen in my childhood that says, yeah, that definitely wasn't normal and couldn't be explored normally.
And he says that's directed towards both of you.
Okay. So go ahead. Oh, all right. I'll go first this time. So wait, let me drink. Get the alcohol flowing. All right. So do you still believe in the paranormal? No, I do not. And this is something I address a lot, and I'm not complaining about it. I like addressing this question. So I don't have beliefs. I'm done with beliefs. I grew up in a Catholic household. I grew up in Catholic faith. I threw that away because I was I couldn't stand it anymore, honestly. So my idea is more of I go by the dogma philosophy. So have you ever seen the movie Dogma?
Love it.
Yes, I don't have beliefs. I have ideas, because I find ideas are much easier to change when you have new information come in. And beliefs are very, very difficult because they're part of your core being and they're very hard to change. People fall back on them too easily. So I don't have beliefs. When it comes to paranormal, as in like life after death and ghosts, I had the idea that it does not exist. I'm still looking for good evidence, hard data that shows otherwise. But right now, as far as I can see, with everything that's come in, the stuff that is valid, because that's a whole show by itself. What's out there does not demonstrate an afterlife. So that is my idea right now. So
it would be really hard to get to be. I know you had this topic come up before, but to actually prove the paranormal on a scientific scale, I mean, you'd have to have your own. You have to have so many, controls in place. You couldn't just be able to go to, one place, even for, even a week wouldn't be, I don't think long enough to get enough, data to even try to correlate,
right,
any sort of life, after death. And it's hard enough to even prove, that we're conscious. Then, let alone to prove actual, human consciousness surviving death. I mean, now me personally, I do believe in it. But I'm very, very skeptical of it now. I mean, I don't have a single piece of evidence that I can say, right here it is. This is a ghost. This is evidence of it. I like you would probably say, I have things that I can't explain. I don't have enough information to explain what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it's a ghost, but I can't explain it. I had a lot of interesting things happen inside of my childhood when I grew up, and which I guess what you would call, a haunted house, where I would actually get in trouble for things that happened, and my mom would blame me and punish me, for things. There was one time where her purse went missing, and I'm not gonna take her purse, and it was missing for like a week, and it wound up under the. We had like a little stand that we put our TV on and then the microwave and put stuff underneath it, and it was like hidden in the back there. And I didn't touch her purse. She didn't touch her purse, but somehow this guy got in trouble for it and punished,
I swear that happened to me.
Yeah, and just things that I couldn't explain. Like it sounded like somebody with like boots running across upstairs in our attic, and I'd go up there all the time and have to put like meshing up for squirrel. We thought squirrel. I'm like, oh yeah, squirrels can make those sounds. The TV would come on and go off. The phone would come off the hook. The back door would be open, and why'd you leave the basement door open, Aaron? I'm like, I didn't. Go to your room. So. Whatever, Mom, if you're listening, sorry, but she always punished me for it. But
here's a follow-up.
And then I had some other really weird things, happen through, all throughout my life. But I want to believe, but and before I believed in almost anything, when it came to paranormal, I believed in it all. And then I slowly started going more towards the skeptical side, and I lean much more harder towards the skeptical side than the belief side. Like people from my team actually sometimes they get mad at me. I know like some of the people who are like psychics on my team or are sensitives, will get a little, like, oh look, this is definitely them. Like, nah, but we all get along. We all get along well. So
okay. Well, follow up. Does that mean why can't we be both, like skeptical and a believer? I'm guessing.
Yeah, because you were talking about.
Yeah, that's how I consider myself a skeptical believer.
I mean, you can be.
Yeah,
I want to make that clear. Like, I'm not telling you can't be. It's you can believe whatever you want to believe. I really, I'm not saying this in a mean way. I don't care.
Ghost cats or whatever, the alien cat.
You can do that.
There's people who do.
I think. Oh my God. So I guess the issue that I have comes up when someone tries to start preaching their beliefs to other people, and try to influence them to do things or believe certain things. That's when I have an issue, because I think, all right, well, if you're going to preach your beliefs, then I can also add to it and preach my ideas that may or may not counter those beliefs. But I like to give all the information possible. I mean, I use this example a lot. Every time I see Star Wars, yes, I do have the complete idea that I have power of the Force. I try to get the remote.
He does.
I do. I sit on the couch and I'm like,
no, wait, it moved.
And
just a little bit.
Oh, she starts making fun of me a lot. I'm like, but I mean, that's more in fun. But if you want to believe, by all means, go ahead. That's your life. So it's just when you start preaching to others and trying to force them to believe what you believe, or trying to get people to buy things.
I was going to say, or if you try to scam them, either at a money to get them to buy something, or to make them, they need to buy this crystal, they need to buy this, or you have to pay me this money to get rid of the spirit, or any of that. Anytime someone tries to prey on somebody, that really it really makes me mad.
Yeah. All right, we'll take one more question and then we'll get to some more biases that you have, because I know you have a few, right?
A whole dry erase board.
Okay. Yes. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So, Rob Palmer, our well-known skeptic, he's how do you think this plays into religious faith? Prayers are answered. People know they felt the Holy Spirit, etc. So, I mean, I think that's I think that goes along the same idea. It's there's still beliefs. Mm-hmm. So you have that confirmation bias where if somebody prays for someone and
something happens,
something happens that's a positive outcome, that's a hit. If something comes out where it's not a positive outcome, then that becomes more or less God works in mysterious ways, or I guess I didn't pray hard enough. There's excuses rather than, all right, maybe it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. They're always, the thing with that is, and in my personal opinion is, if something doesn't happen, like how you said, it just, I don't want to make anybody mad, talking about religion or anything like that. But if it doesn't happen, I guess I didn't pray hard enough. God didn't hear me. Or if it does happen, that had to be it. It was God. So.
Hey, Randy, emotional manipulation. I'm kind of with her. Yeah. So it is, and I don't agree with the whole sending thoughts and prayers thing. I don't agree with. I mean, again, it comes down to personal beliefs. If you want to ask people to pray for you, it kind of makes you feel better. I don't think it does anything, but it's that belief,
good juju. Send me some good juju.
You feel people giving you good comments, but yeah, I mean, I when it comes to religious beliefs, and I mean, we really don't discuss religion too much on this show because it does incite a very passionate.
I don't want to make anybody mad. So I know there's probably people out there all the way from agnostics to atheists, the Satanists, especially on your show, but
Hey now.
Oh, okay. After that,
where's JD? There he is. I see.
Time to go back to biases.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's beliefs are beliefs across the board. Doesn't matter if they're religious, paranormal. If you believe that vanilla is better than chocolate, and you're just wrong. But that's it's your belief. It's your preference, what you want to believe in. So there's nothing else we can do about it. All right, so let's move on. What else you got? What do you got in biases?
Let's see. So biases. We're talking about. I said they can be good and they can be bad. They help us throughout our daily life to make decisions. Because if you had to look at every single thing and make a judgment on it, a really in-depth judgment, your brain would just absolutely go crazy. A lot of people out there don't think that they're biased. Everybody has biases. Biases, they're the way how I would describe them would just be the dumbed down Aaron version would just be a prejudged way of thinking. Like if everyone out there were to think of a penny, so everyone think of a penny, right now. You got it?
Got it.
You know, did anyone picture a wheat penny or a penny from Canada? Well, if you grew up maybe back in the 40s and 50s, you may picture a wheat penny. You may picture, if you were from another country, you probably picture a Canadian penny. Well, that just plays in, you know, that's actually a bias. Your brain says, oh, got to think of a penny. Boom. The very first thing that comes to mind. Shortcuts, everything goes right to that decision. And it makes, you know, a penny, you know, depending on what it is. And if I were to say, everybody picture, you know, a doctor. Everybody's picturing the doctor. But are you picturing, what if you were a dentist? Like my uncle's a dentist. He might picture himself as a dentist or one of his friends. What if someone is an engineer and works for like a nuclear power plant and they have their PhD? You know, when you think of a doctor, a lot of people think of medical doctor. And the same thing would be if, like, you know, if you think of a secretary. I'm sure what people would think of a secretary. Anyone think of the Secretary of Defense? You know, just if you worked in the government, you may think of something like that. So it all depends on you, on how you're brought up, how you're raised, and it's just your brain's way to shortcut things.
Okay.
If we had to make decisions for everything, it'd be another good one would be if you see someone who you know, say they have, like, I don't know, a knife inside of their hand. This is a kind of a out of the box one, and then if you see, like, you see Donna, she has a knife, you're like, oh, okay, there's Donna. Hey, Donna, you have a knife, you know, whatever. She's walking, all of a sudden you see a stranger on the street with a knife in your hand. Your brain is gonna, you know, not just kind of pass by that. Your brain's gonna go, oh crap, hang on a minute, I can't say, oh, I've seen this before, I recognize this, which would be like a pattern recognition bias, which we'll get into next, and it will kind of flag it, and it'll say, hang on a minute, this needs more attention. We can't just go, okay, I got this, I know what this looks like, I know what's going to happen next. Your brain likes to see patterns, especially with that kind of bias, with your selective attention bias. It may filter things out which you wouldn't want to see, that you wouldn't see that maybe I would see. Like a selective attention bias. Like if we're, like, for instance, we go to some city somewhere, and I look and I go, because being in law enforcement, I can go, oh, look, let's get ready to be a drug deal right there. And Wife's like, no, it's not. And you see the guys go up, do the hand to hand, and leave, and I'm like, yep. But my wife is excellent with numbers and balancing books and stuff, and she could probably look at a spreadsheet or something and look at it and, you know, pick out and find what's wrong on a budget sheet immediately. Or you would be a good one with, like, a camera. You know, you can look at something and go, oh, you know, I know what that is, because your brain, you know, it recognizes those patterns, recognizes those things, and it can go right to it and go, I know what it is. And we use this selective bias to filter out selective attention bias to filter out stimuli throughout our day. If not, we'd be overloaded. Our brain wouldn't be able to compute, you know, all the stimulus, you know, what's coming in. Another one would be like if you just bought a new car, and all of a sudden you bought that new car, you see that car everywhere, don't you? Or if you had just had a baby, you know, before you may not even recognize babies. Now all of a sudden, everywhere you look, everybody has a baby. Because before that, your brain literally filtered it all out. You didn't even pay attention to it, but now you're paying attention to it.
Right.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Remember the baby crying in the stores?
Oh, man, yeah.
Jesus.
Our son, after our son was born, he was very colicky, and he cried all the time. And now it's like,
when we finally decided we might want another one,
we hear a baby cry
about it,
and that's it. Like it's a switch in my head. Like nope,
can't do it.
Nope.
Sorry, can't do it.
We were up, we were constantly up. I mean, I felt bad for the kid because, I mean, he was just, there's nothing he could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, babies. But now I filter it out. Like I don't hear babies unless they have that loud, painful kind of cry. And that's my little selection bias. So Bob's got a question. What type of biases have you experienced in your profession? Oh, go ahead.
I say I had one more thing on
okay.
selective bias, but we can. What was his question? I was trying to figure out how to share the screen here.
Read the question.
What type of biases have you experienced in your profession? How do you handle biases when dealing with people who are breaking the law?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I actually teach. I taught down the academy. I'm hoping to be there for this next class. It was an internal thing. They did a lot of revamping in there. I actually taught the bias-based traffic stops for the recruits for the past couple years. Bias for me, it really started in law enforcement in the past couple years with all this all the different type of movements and stuff, that are going on. Before, I never really even noticed it before. And now all of a sudden I notice that people are, treating me, treating law enforcement, I should say, different, and just lack of respect, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But me, I treat everybody and I'll tell them if I have to lock somebody up, I say, I don't care what happened beforehand. I treat you with as much respect as you want to give me. You give me respect, I'm going to give you respect.
Okay.
You have a clean slate with me.
That's good.
Yeah, I need you to pull me over.
Wow, that's how movies start. There's an interesting comment I wanted. Mr. Kruger. He's got a comment about the picture behind me. Something. Let's see. The thing is fluttering like a fan. It's blowing on it. Let's see this one. Paranormal. What's the picture on the shelf behind Kenny to his right? To my right? Like, oh, well, the right would be on this side. If you're talking about that, that's not a picture. That's an award, but it's got a reflective surface to it. So any kind of lights or anything, if you're talking about that, I don't know what else there is, unless you're talking about this side, because that's actually to my right. I know it's reversed in the screen, but I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't see anything flickering.
All right. Give me a follow-up there, Mr. Kruger. Is that Freddy Kruger? Sorry. All right. What else you got?
Are we going to a question or?
What question you got?
Hold on.
She has a question.
I am going to Bob.
Oh. What type of biases have you experienced? Oh, we just did that.
Oh. Well, then I'm sorry. We're going to go to John.
John is drunk.
No, I'm not. You took the question off. What happened here? Hold on. I got shit popping
up. All right. There's a long one by Brandon B.
No, not that one yet.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right. Dead air.
So while we're waiting for the question to come up,
yes, please.
I'll go back into the bias here. This one, they sent out they did a study for a selective attention bias, where they sent out a what do you call it? I guess it's a CAT scan of lungs. And they wanted to see, and they sent it out, and they say, "Hey, can you look at this, and can you tell me, do you see anything abnormal, inside of this, inside of this screening here?"
Yeah.
And they actually hid a little monkey, what was actually 48 times the size of a normal cancer nodule, and actually 86% of the people completely missed the monkey hidden inside of the scan. And
I remember.
I have a picture of it. I don't know if you want me to pull it up.
Okay, yeah, pull it up, because I remember you bring that up on screen, and that was funny, because I picked that out right away. So,
Mr.
Oh, there it is,
Mr. Kruger.
Here we go. All right,
and it's right in here.
So
yeah, this little monkey.
Let me see if I can bring that up full screen. Oh, there we go, a little bit. There he is. Yeah, look at him. He's so cute.
Yep. So, and 86% of them actually completely missed that monkey, and they didn't even see it.
Wow. That's
because they weren't looking for it.
Yeah, exactly. They were looking for certain things, and that didn't pop up. So in their brain, because they're trying to filter out all that other stimulus, and it's completely filtered it out. And another one would be like that video, the count the passes video. It's a selective attention test, where they play a video, and you're supposed to count how many times the team in, I think it's white, passes a ball. And it's there's 3 people wearing white shirts, 3 people wearing black shirts, and they just pass a basketball back and forth. Well, in the middle of it, a guy in a gorilla suit comes in the middle, does a little shimmy and dance, and walks away. And like 80-90% of the people completely miss it, because they're so focused on counting this pass, and their attention is completely it's not divided, and they miss it. There is a good book. I'm totally going to use this as an opportunity to actually later on. Hold on. Come on.
The whole shelf.
Oh, the whole shelf is going to pop out.
Need help?
Oh, I'm okay. Don't worry. So they actually wrote a book called The Invisible Gorilla.
Oh.
and it's all about their experiments that they did and the how they performed them, what they did, and more insight. So definitely at the end of the show, if I remember, I'll put that back up. And so, and that's by Christopher Chabras and Daniel Simons. But it's good. It definitely is a good book.
Okay, so before you get to John's question, the Mr. Kruger thing to the left, it's the Leia. I think it's the paper there that you have on the air conditioner.
Oh, okay.
Fluttering.
All right. So if you're talking about right here, yes, that is a piece of paper. There's an air conditioner behind Leia, and if the paper wasn't taped to the side, it would be blowing right on producer Donna, and she gets cold. So I put a paper there so it directs it more towards me. So that's a good catch, though.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw something moving.
All right. So John's question, it's definitely a ghost. My luck, it's probably a demon.
For sure.
The backfire effect is considered a bias, and I come against it a lot as a skeptic. What's your suggestion to get out of that?
I'm not familiar with the backfire effect.
Oh, this is a good one. The backfire effect is basically the Cliff Notes version is that people have their beliefs, and the more you try to present information, good information that contradicts that belief, the more they pretty much dig in and hold on to their previous belief.
I think we were talking about where's it at? We were talking about that one earlier. When no matter how much you give them, because they don't want to be wrong, they want to be seen as a winner. It's actually called a commitment bias. That's it. I couldn't think of it. The commitment bias, where they're so committed to it, no matter, and even if you give them a perfectly good way to escape, like unscathed, like, oh, could it be this? And they go, oh, absolutely. Maybe you're right, because it goes into that primal instinct of wanting to be seen as a winner. That they just hold on to it, no matter what, they won't let it go. And there's really nothing you can say or do, in my opinion, and that I have found, to try to get somebody to overcome that. And that's why it's one of the biggest questions, the most important question that me and my team ask when we go investigate a house is, are you willing to accept other explanations? Because if they say no, there's not much I'm going to be able to help them there. So unfortunately, I haven't found a way to overcome that, for somebody. And unless they want to change, I don't think they're going to.
So the only thing that I can add to that is that I've found, at least with people I talk to over the years, and it takes time. Like that, for me, it takes time.
Got to wear them down.
Pretty much. You have to come back. You have to be polite, first and foremost. You can't be a dick about it. You can't say that's stupid or no, you're silly for believing in that stuff. You have to be polite. And my usual approach is, hey, tell me why you believe that. Because now first step is understanding where they're coming from. Why do they believe this certain belief? Mm-hmm. The second thing is, let's see if they're open to alternative ideas. Like, how about this? What do you think of this? Could there be a possibility that there's a different explanation? I mean, if they're totally cut off on it, then yeah, I usually walk away because I'm not. That's an investment of time. I'm not going to win. Yeah, I'm not going to win, and it's just going to be a lot of wasted time. But other than that, I'll go slow. If they're open to it, it's like, all right, well, let's talk about this, and I'll explain as best I can what I know about the subject. If I can demonstrate it, I'll replicate the like an experiment or something and show them. Sometimes it works after an hour or so. Sometimes you break through that wall that they have up. Other times it takes weeks or months where you might disagree and you part ways. But the next time you meet, they'll come over and say, hey, you know what? That conversation we had, I thought about it, and maybe you're right. Can we talk about it some more? And then that develops into another conversation. And eventually they say, all right, they might not come all the way over, but at least you break through and you start baby steps.
And then I start seeing, and that's just step one is if they're willing to have that conversation and put themselves in to explore information outside of their comfort zone, that's actually one of the first steps to overcoming a bias. So
Right.
Good job.
Yeah. I mean, I know I frustrate producer Donna sometimes because like she can read when I'm getting into a conversation. She knows like, oh, this is going to be forever. Mm-hmm. This is going to take hours.
Time to walk away.
Yep. She walks away. She goes and does something else, but I will stay there and I'll sit down and talk to you, and we will lay it all out on the table, metaphorically and physically, and just, you know, like, this is what it is, and let's try this experiment to see if we can prove or disprove this hypothesis or this idea. You know, let's go through the steps, and most of the time I feel it works, at least partially, and any little step I think is a win. You know, as long as they're thinking about it and now they have doubt, and they're going to look at it differently next time. And I've encountered that where they actually apply that knowledge to the next ghost hunt or something that they do. And then I get an email and they're like, you know what?
You're right.
Fucker, you were right. And I don't mind that. That's great. You know, that's great. So can you put that picture back up? Because Jade Kitten did not see the monkey.
Yeah, we might have to circle it.
So yeah,
hang on, let me go.
All right.
Let me go to the PowerPoint because I have one with an arrow on it. Hang on, let's pull the PowerPoint.
Oh, that's even better. Because I know that even during your presentation, when you put it up, I remember some people did not see it.
Well, it's kind of hard too sometimes if you're looking on little screens.
Yeah, hang on, I'll make it big here. All right.
Let me see.
Is it shared?
Wait. Let me see. Yep. It's here at the screen. I'm going to put it full screen. There we go. And then I'm going to take the filter off, or the banner off here so you can see it.
You can't make it any bigger than that.
Yeah, hang on a second. I got to go.
All right. Oh, we're getting to see everything he does.
Where's it at? Slideshow. Here it is. View from current slide.
Slideshow. Current side. There we go.
That looks better.
So yeah, it's right there in the top. It's kind of standing there. I think it's waving.
I have another slide, but it enlarges it. But that way you can kind of see where the arrow pointing towards it. Right down
you
here.
Should make it
like, it has an arrow by it. You know. I should have put a circle around it.
Or make it like bright green.
Yeah, I should have put a yellow circle around it.
Yeah.
But,
oh, there we go.
There we go. And it's
there he is.
Right in here.
That's awesome. I love it.
I hope you see that, Jade Kitten.
Yeah. Do you see it?
All right. Let's see. Hopefully she sees it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So.
All right.
Do you want to do one more question?
Let's do one more question, and then we should be able to take our break, and then we'll come back and we'll do some more biases with Aaron. Uh-oh.
The pen just...
Donna is drunk.
I'm not.
Producer Donna is drunk because she's dropping shit right and left.
I didn't drop it.
All right.
It flew.
So, how do you say it? Doriva? I hope I say that right. That's a cool name. How have you experienced biases when testifying in court, if you have?
I really haven't, because in court they take it as a it's testimony. So there's really no bias, in court, and
it's like
it's a trial. It's a testimony.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I just go up there and I just tell my story. They ask me questions, and I give them the answer.
Yeah, because you're just giving. They're not looking for biases. They're not pointing them out. They're just saying what happened, and you're telling the story.
It's actually really. It's not like you see on TV. It's actually really boring. Were you working this night? Can you tell me what happened? And it's pretty boring.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions? Because that was pretty quick.
We do have here. Try this one.
Rob Palmer, I believe many or most law enforcement people believe in the lunar effect, full moon influence. Do you run into this? And what bias causes this?
I don't know what bias causes that, but I will swear by it. There's some nights where I go to work and it's like sometimes I'll get the lunar calendar out and I'm like, it's a full moon. I got to have this day off. Because
I'm telling you. Man, Aaron, I say the same thing to Kenny when I'm driving, and he's like, "Oh no, it's just another day," and I'm like, "Nuh-uh." I'm like, the idiots are out.
We had a Friday when I used to work inside of a hospital before and for security in the hospital. And we had Friday the 13th in October, and it was a full moon. And there was a line down the hallway of psych patients to be seen. I've never seen that many. And we had to like restrain 8 of them. It was a disaster. And I'm like, it's a full moon, Friday the 13th in October. I'm like, never again.
There's
I don't know what bias it is, but I don't think it's a bias. I think it's a fact because there's people act crazy out there.
I'm disagreeing with both of you.
It will be a beautiful, beautiful Friday or Saturday night in the summer. Nothing. And December, it's a full moon on a Tuesday, and it just all hell just breaks loose. And it's like, full moon tonight. That's what it is.
Yo, Aaron, I think we should do a study on like hospitals and like.
Well, there are studies out there.
Are there?
Yes.
And is there differences?
There is not.
Well,
there is no difference.
Well, maybe just that one experience that we had, but maybe I have a.
When you really.
We need to put Schumacher on it.
This is where anecdotal.
You should pull that up.
Anecdotal evidence comes into play because people tell stories. It's a full moon. You hear either in the newspaper, on the news, like it's going to be a full moon. And people pay attention more. That goes into your selection bias. I think that would fall into
too about people trying to say it had like a tidal effect on like the blood pressure on people, but it
does not. No. But the studies, and I will look them up. I will put it in my notes.
Yeah, I think this should be a show for Saturday night
because the studies that I read, yes, they did go to hospitals. They checked the emergency room admissions plus regular admissions, but mostly emergency room because that's where you go first.
When stuff goes bad, yeah.
And no, there was no difference. There was no increase on just full moons, but nothing like that. And I think it falls into that selection bias because you know when a full moon is coming, so you pay attention more. And it's I think it's between selection bias and confirmation bias because if you already know it's going to happen, you already have that belief it's going to happen. And Cindy Lee,
yeah, man, she's an ER trainer.
It is real. All right, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna find.
We're really gonna have to.
You know what I'll do? This is what I'll do. I'll do for the next year. When it's a full moon, I'll do like a call. I'll do a call audit, and I'll see what crazy calls we have during like the day before and the day after.
That's awesome. Like that first, like the 3 days.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
And then I'll do it for a year, and then I'll let you know, and then I'll prove you wrong, Kenny.
All right, so 1 year from 1 year.
So wait, you have an agenda.
July of next year. Yeah, we'll start it in August.
Yep.
August to August.
That'll be cool. That'll be a cool study.
I'll see if there's anything to it. So.
All right.
Dude, this is really cool. Yeah, I think we should. We can do our own study.
Definitely up for that because that would show some hard data, and we'll be able to pick from that.
Yeah, and he has access to that data, which is good.
Yeah. And yeah. I mean, now I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
I'm excited because it's a study now.
Where is Dave when
you know what?
Need him?
Dave's probably drunk.
He's not in the show.
He's not in the chat room. But you know what?
Dave didn't come to the show.
I'll also. I don't see him.
If Dave's not here, I'm just going to go.
I saw Tim.
Tim's here.
Yeah, I saw Tim. Hey, Tim.
So what I'll do is I'll look for those studies that I read and I'll post them on my Facebook page, the I Am Kenny Biddle page, and I'll share them with you so you can see them too, and then we'll go from there. It looks like Aaron's cup is empty. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to take a 2-minute and 22-second break. That'll give us enough time. Yeah, well, you just have to run. Pee and fill up real quick. I suggest you fill up first and then pee. And then that's my routine. And then we will be back. We will be back in 2 minutes and 22 seconds from now. Hey everyone, this is my store based on the theme of science and skepticism. It's here that you can find all kinds of shirts and hoodies, yoga pants, tote bags, the fanny packs I know you guys love, masks and pillows, all with science and skepticism as the theme. I even have hoodies for your pets. That's right, your dog or cat can wear one of these things. I also have a general store that sells more inspirational quotes or, drinking stuff because I like that kind of thing. I also have a store set up for our 3 tortured souls, podcast, which we do Saturday nights. You can find shirts and Tim Vicker's favorite drinking vessel, the mug. I also have a store tailored a little bit more towards my ghost hunting friends, Paranormal by I Am Kenny Biddle. These are shirts and quotes that are a little bit more on the ghost hunting side, especially this one, Translucent Perished Beings. You know, ghost. That's my favorite. So if you're interested, head on over to teespring.com/stores/scientific skepticism by IAKB and check it out. Thanks.
Are you tortured by what you see and hear about the paranormal field? Join us as we critically examine and question paranormal claims, science, ghosts, demons, cryptids, UFOs, ghost hunting technology, and much more are all on the table for discussion. 3 Tortured Souls is a video podcast that streams live on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 Pacific.
3 Tortured Souls.
All right, we are back. Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron, where are you? Hey, Ron. Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Sorry. You see, Kenny, I'm a fancy drunk, so.
Okay. Oh, look at you.
Oh, he's got this shaker.
Give me a cup. Sorry, I had to cut my lines for the video.
Here you go.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you.
All
All right. What do we got next? Tell us some more biases.
Important stuff. Hang on.
Important stuff. Yeah, we have to make sure the alcohol is flowing nicely.
All right. So where did we left off on?
So
we'll talk about pattern recognition bias.
Yes.
So pattern recognition bias. Let's see me pull up my slide here real quick. Where'd it go? So it's a pattern recognition is your brain wants to take shortcuts to kind of figure out what's going to happen next. And it's pretty much like making an assumption. Like your brain sees something and goes, oh, I've seen this before. I think I know what's going to happen. And that's when it kind of makes a prediction of what's going to happen. It's when we label ideas, people, things based on our initial opinion, our initial thoughts. The first time we see it, that's what we think. And that can actually affect our physical too, like the way how we see things. And one of it is the checkerboard pattern. It's a famous illustration done by Edward Aldson out of MIT. And it looks like, share screen, I'm getting this, here we go.
Oh, wait, there we go.
And the image looks like that. So a lot of people would say, you look at the pattern, and Kenny, what pattern do you see?
So I see, hold on, let me get this out of the way so people can see it all. All right, so I see a checkerboard pattern.
Checkerboard. So your brain sees the pattern and knows, it recognizes, say, that's a checkerboard pattern. I don't have to do any more. So when you see, I know you saw this slide already. So when you see slide, when you see the square number 1 on the upper left-hand corner, when you see square number 2, on an honest opinion, does it look different?
So, honest opinion, it looks different.
It looks different.
1 and 2 look different. Yes.
Because your brain sees a pattern, sees something that it sees every day, and it shortcuts it and says, I know what this is. It's a checkered pattern. I know what this is supposed. I know what it's supposed to look like. And when you throw the apple in there, the apple looks like it's casting a bit, of a shadow and making it look a little different. But however, it is actually the same color as the one on the top. And I'm gonna make this big. Hang on 1 second, so the audience can see.
What sorcery is this?
Yeah, and this is no sort of sorcery. This is It is the exact same color of the rest of them. And it just shows, that you have the pattern recognition bias where your brain, it affects your daily life, where your brain actually says, I see a pattern, I recognize it. Don't worry, don't worry, rest of the brain. I got it from here, and we'll fill in the rest of the information.
I think when it comes to, when I see that kind of thing, oh my goodness, I'm naked without my frame. Hold on.
What are you doing?
I know. I'm like, okay, there I am. All right.
So, and there are lots of these, like ones that look like they're moving, and ones that
right.
Same thing with like different checkerboard, different patterns that we see on a daily basis. It'll recognize it and kind of fill it in.
When I see that, my brain automatically goes to, okay, there's supposed to be, if this is a true image, not a drawn image, if this is a true image, then we have an object, which is the apple, that's casting a shadow. There's obviously light coming from the right side of the image, and it's casting a shadow. Therefore, the checkered pattern should keep going.
It should change color.
Predict it. Yeah, because that's what we predict.
And that's what your brain wants to see. Exactly. Yes. The brain sees the shadow, sees the apple, sees the pattern, and goes, I got it from here, Kenny. Don't worry about it.
Right. Yep. But even with if I saw this, if somebody sent this to me and said something like, oh, check this for me, one of my first steps would be to load it into an editing software and sample both blocks. Mm-hmm. Like the color sample both blocks and see if it comes up the same. That's what I would do. Just because I'm like, all right, well, I'm seeing this, but if they're sending it to me with a purpose, something's up. And that would trigger it. But yes, I mean, you're absolutely correct.
We see pattern, like different patterns all the time that we would recognize. Like the one I brought up in Phenomenology was the bees. What an underground beehive looks like.
Right.
You're going to walk by it 100 times, and you're probably unless you've outside mowing your grass with the lawnmower and run over an underground beehive, I can pick them out a mile away. And I have a weird gift with seeing patterns with like 4-leaf clovers. I'll be running a marathon with me and my wife Randy, and I'll stop and look, I found the 4 or 5-leaf clover. They popped out at me.
Wow,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Funny law enforcement story is when I went to the police academy, and they would make us do like our PT, push-ups and running and bear crawling and rolling around. I would I'd find 4-leaf clovers and hand them all like, hey, look, I found a 4-leaf clover. Good luck with your 1,000 push-ups.
All right. So
Randy just said that it drives her nuts. So
yeah, that would drive me nuts too.
But this just shows that it can impact our senses. And when it comes to the paranormal, if you always go to this place and this place has a reputation of being haunted, and then all of a sudden you're there, so you're thinking you're going to see something, and then all of a sudden you start picking up, I don't know, some sort of environmental change, and now all of a sudden you think that something's going to happen. Like you're recognizing, these patterns and expecting something to happen, and you may jump ahead. You jump ahead of something and say, oh, this is, we already have X, Y, or A, B, C, D. Let's go I know what's happening. I'm going to go to G or F. Just keep, or whatever letter you want to go through. You can keep going because your brain recognizes the patterns and just keeps going.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have any questions popping up?
Yeah, I just have one up there. Did you guys answer it?
Oh, I think that was more of a joke. That was that was about biases. What about bias? Ha ha ha.
No, actually,
it is a bias.
Bias.
Yeah.
Is that the fallacy?
So Kenny, if I were to, if somebody were to give a paper for peer review, and that person gave that person a gift, would you say that person would be more maybe lenient towards doing the critique on that paper?
Yeah.
So that would definitely be.
Yep.
Okay. Now when I write this paper for this study that we're going to do, and I give it to you, are you going to be biased on me because I give you a gift, a thing of rum? Would you treat my paper differently?
So let me explain this. Let me explain this. No. Wait. I know where you're going with this, and I understand what you're doing. But I've already trained myself that gifts and special favors and friends, family do not matter in this case. So I've already done this over the years where it's like, you can tell me a story and I don't give a shit if you're a good friend or my mother or my wife. I don't care who you are or what you do. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think without any filters.
Yeah, so, he's good at that now. But I mean, maybe like 10 years ago, I don't think you were.
Yeah, I mean, previously,
it's called the bias or the blind spot bias. And a good example would be when they actually polled a bunch of teachers, and they said, if a student gave you a gift, do you think, would you give them a better grade? And they said, absolutely not. And they say, now, if a teacher was given a gift, one of your coworkers was given a gift, do you think they would give them a better grade? And they're like, I think they might. So they're biased against their own bias. Like they're saying, I'm not biased, but other people are biased.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm sorry, Darren.
Everybody does.
I'm sorry, Darren, that I thought that was more of a joke, but I didn't recognize it for what it was. So
don't worry,
my
I got
apologies.
your back.
All right. So, and then the next one was fallacy. The fallacy. I am familiar with that.
Well, he just put it up here.
Don't accept a possible valid argument because it has a bias in it for context. So yeah, that's what I'm familiar with. That because an argument does contain a bias does not actually mean the argument is invalid itself. It's just, they might have used a bias in order to try to emphasize it, but you still have to look at the point of the claim. So yeah, I get that. And I see that a lot. And that is something I also had to overcome because I was used to that. When I started transitioning more to a skeptical outlook on everything, I learned about biases. I learned about confirmation bias and all the other biases. And I was like, oh, and I started pointing them out because I thought I was being like, oh, I'm being so skeptical. And I was actually being a dick. Because when you point them out like that and just, you kind of attack a person because they're using a bias, you come off as a dick. You really do. And I think that's where I was going without actually looking at the point they were trying to make. I would attack the bias. And as soon as I recognized the bias, I was like, nope, your whole argument is just done. And I would just ignore them, which was wrong of me. That was just completely wrong. So over the years, again, just like the other bias, I've learned to let's put that aside. Let's look at the actual point they're trying to make and see if that's valid and go from there. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. Okay. All right. What else we got?
Here we go.
We got a question?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kruger. I'm going to call him Freddie. After nearly 20 years as a ghost hunter, I definitely have biases when I have people asking me about Coast to Coast, the Warrens, and lately Scott Carpenter. Any tips about being more patient? Oh, you're first.
Patience. Jeez, I mean, I'm not a very patient person, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
All right, so I'll take this, and if you have anything to add, then jump in. So, a good tip about being more patient is to be exactly that. Be more patient. When someone's starting to piss you off, breathe. Just remember that. I guess I always bring up the situation where someone walks up to me, they're a ghost hunter, they're a new ghost hunter, they're really excited, they have pictures, and they show you a picture of an orb. And I've dealt with orbs for years. I dare say decades now.
Yeah, we're getting old.
I've addressed that question thousands and thousands and thousands of times. But what I have to realize is that person that's coming up to me now, that's the new ghost hunter, has not heard that explanation thousands and thousands and thousands of times. They're hearing it for the first time. And I have to remember that even though it might annoy the fuck out of me, they're not annoying me. They're asking a question. They're looking to me for some advice or information. So I keep that in mind whenever stuff like this comes up. So I have my own biases, yes, but people will come up and ask me a question. Even if I've heard it a million times before, I have to realize that person has not asked me a million times. They've only asked me once. So I take it calmly and I answer their question. And I go over it. And if I can demonstrate it, yes, I do. You have to keep that in mind. Anytime you're dealing with someone that doesn't understand, or if you're dealing with someone that is just being downright ignorant because they have their beliefs, they're staying with them, then politely leave the conversation.
I mean, I have patience, like what you were saying. If someone new comes up to me and asks a question or asks my opinion, gladly give it to them. But as far as if someone just, no, you're wrong, or what about this, and they don't want to accept, that information, like I said, just try to be patient with them and, explain to them. So, look, I gave it to you. Do you not understand? Do you want me to break it down for you? Do you want further explaining? Do you want me to show you where I learned this? Do you want me to show you where you can get more information, on this topic? And they may just want to save face, and because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. But maybe if you give them a little bit more information, they may go seek it out on their own, and ultimately may even change their mind.
Yes, yeah. And if you could offer like books, like I can offer dozens. I mean, you guys all see the books behind me, but there's 4 times as many books around the room. So I can give you books. I can say, hey, here's a book, The Invisible Gorilla, based on a video that Aaron mentioned earlier. You can read it and see how they came up with it. Offer that information, because that's something that they can go back to and say, all right, well, I can go order that book right now and then, have it to my house by, if you order Amazon Prime, you can get it tomorrow or the next day, and then start reading it, start learning. But realize, not everyone knows everything you do. Sometimes people are going to be stubborn. So when you run into a situation like that, I usually just I will definitely try. But if you're going to fight me, really dig your heels in and fight me just because you want to fight me, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not wasting it on you.
Exactly.
There are other people that are more open to discussion. Yeah. I'm going to smile, walk away. I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to take a drink. I'm going to walk away. If you give me a dirty look, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to walk away and talk to somebody that is open to discussion. That's all. So don't waste your time.
I find a lot if you give them an out, or if you try to almost like disarm the conversation, and you can talk about something that you can maybe relate to. Like if you disagree, on orbit, you agree on I don't know, another topic. You can talk about the other topic and maybe kind of work your way into it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. All right. So what do we got? We good?
No, we're good.
We go?
If you want to move on to something else.
Let's move on. What else you got?
We talked about it briefly earlier about the priming bias, when you're primed on something, and something that I thought was really, I didn't think it was going to happen with up in phenomenology, is when you prime them with a particular word and you give them, it actually creates a false memory, which I thought was absolutely insane that it actually worked. Where you give them a certain word, a certain trigger word, and you say words that are centered around that. And you wait 30 seconds and have them write down the words, and people actually wrote down the trigger word.
Can we do this?
Yeah, do you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do this. All right, so everybody,
a few minutes,
get a piece of paper. We're going to give you a couple seconds.
No cheating.
Get a piece of paper, get a pen. You're going to have to write shit down. So make sure you do it. And paper, pen. And this is actually fun.
I'll give him a minute. I'll give him a minute to get that real quick.
Give him a minute. Okay.
Yeah, start paying attention.
Yeah, so for the where'd it go? Hang on a minute. Sorry, I lost my slide here. Yeah. So for that bias, for the priming bias, it can where'd it go? So it can also make them see things that aren't present, which we're going to talk about, which we're going to do, and it can create like a memory problem. So when if people out there are ghost hunters and you do an interview with somebody, and they may say, you got to look for the consistencies inside of the story, because their memory may not actually be right, and they're not lying to you. They're not, and this actually plays into law enforcement too, where when you do your interviews, you always want to do them separate, because you don't want somebody else feeding into that other person's interview, going, oh, you know what? I do remember he said that, or I do remember hearing that. You want to do it separate, always separate, Always ask them open-ended questions, not, I ask, what did you hear? Tell me what, where did it not? Did you hear footsteps coming down the steps at 2 a.m, last Tuesday night? No. Always ask them open-ended questions and look for, in Aaron's opinion, look for consistencies inside of those stories. Where, again, like the footsteps, someone may say, I heard banging coming down the hallway. Someone may say, I heard footsteps coming from upstairs. I heard scratching coming from the second floor or the third floor. Then paranormal wise, you have some sort of activity going up on the third floor. They may not be lying to you, or the second floor, depending, above you. They may not be lying to you. Well, this person said their footsteps, and this person said scratching. One of them is full. They look for the consistencies. They may say, I'm hearing a noise coming from upstairs, and their brain kind of fills in the blanks, and they go, you know what? It goes, it must have been scratches, because your brain tries to go, from A to C, it forgets B. And if we have time, we'll get into that. It's actually cool with flashbulb memory theory. And your brain actually tries to connect the dots, and sometimes it forgets what's in the middle, and it will fill it in. And sometimes it can fill it in on information that's based on your biases, because your brain has to make a quick, uneducated, snap decision. So just keep that in mind when you guys are, even if you're interviewing, people in general.
Okay.
But
all right,
everyone's ready. So what we're going to do?
Yeah, we gave him enough time.
What's that?
Yeah, I think we gave him enough time. So yeah.
So I'm going to say a couple words, and I want you, don't write anything down yet. Don't write anything down.
Cheating.
I'm going to say the words. You're going to wait about 30 seconds. We get enough time to take a drink, and then write as many down as you can.
Okay.
So the words are going to be slumber, bed, quiet, nap, blanket, pillow, night, pajamas, snooze, tired. So wait a couple seconds.
I like how we both took a drink. I was like, all
right, everybody go ahead. I said this isn't a real quiz. Just write as many down as you remember, and when you do, put them inside the comments. So while we're waiting for that, are you writing yours down there, Kenny? See, if it doesn't count because you did this one.
Shut up! I'm doing it now, though.
Dude,
I'm trying to figure it out.
I can remember like the first 6. We can't do these when we're drunk, Aaron.
I'm doing it and I'm drunk. I'm giving the test.
Yeah, but you're looking at the answers.
Yeah, you're cheating, bitch.
Dude, I ran the first 6 in my head over and over and over again. Then I got the slumber, forgot the first 6.
Cheating.
Sorry, I just gave one away. You don't get credit for slumber. I just stopped. I gave up.
All right, I think I'm good.
Oh, but yeah. Sorry, I'll read the comments. It makes me happy. People are actually playing along.
All right, this is good. This is good. We're gonna give it a couple more seconds.
Yeah, and, Tiffany, I agree with you. She's too drunk for this too.
Oh boy, Donna's mic is going to get turned off soon. All right. Let's see. It's past my bedtime. I love it. I love it.
You guys use too many brain cells. You don't have any left at the end of the night. I can't talk because I only got 4 and I gave up.
Wow. All right.
Wait, so, for another one.
I'm good. Okay. No, because you're reading the comments. That's cheating.
No, I'm not.
Cheater.
All right, Connie, what do you got for me?
All right. So I got slumber, pillow, night, nap, bed, quiet, tired.
Okay. Is anyone out there? Those are all correct. You're very good. I thought you'd have a little better memory, but it's okay.
Did you get blanket? Was there a blanket?
There was blanket. So,
yes.
So it's actually, I was scrolling through some of the comments here, and we actually got one. It made me really happy. I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. But does anybody remember me saying the word pajamas? Right? Does that sound familiar?
Maybe.
What about night?
Night? Yeah, I remember that. They were the first few, and then I totally blocked
I was
out.
trying. I keep trying. Like as you said them, I was going. I repeated it, and then I repeated the next one, and I was like, I got the 4, and I'm like, fuck, I'm fucked. This ain't gonna work.
Now, does anyone out there remember the word sleep?
Sleep? No, I don't remember sleep. A lot of people out here looks like they remember pajamas, though. I'm just looking at the comments real quick.
So someone says yes for both, and anyone just say yes or no sleep if you remember me saying the word sleep.
No.
Okay,
No sleep. No. Yes, I said sleep.
Tiffany
So
says yes.
no sleep. See, so it works for about 20% of the people, I guess. So that's pretty good. No, I actually never said the word sleep. So Tiffany believes that I said the word sleep and wrote down sleep. I can scroll through the top here and see her answer, and she put on there sleep for one of the first ones.
Right.
So, and what that is I gave you words that primed around a particular word, the word sleep. Slumber, nap, tired. All these words resemble and they conform around the word sleep. So your brain just goes, sleep. And no, Tiffany, I didn't say sleep. So. But it just goes to show that that if you do have a very large audience, you can actually get quite a few people that will actually say yes, sleep, or they say, you know what, you're right. I do remember you saying sleep now that you mentioned it, and that just shows that your brain is it's filling in the blanks. And you believe that I said the word. You believe a false memory. You have a memory that I put inside of your head now that you think that I said the word sleep. What are you in? Nothing. Sorry.
Sorry, Jay Kitten. This was just one of those fun games.
All right, that's cool.
So moving on. Another big bias that I think we've actually overcome inside of the paranormal field, at least. I mean, you may disagree because you probably see a lot more of the negative than I do, because of my biases and stuff. But would be the status quo bias, and that's how it's always done. And a big one that I'm starting to see research, more serious researchers overcome is doing things in the dark. People think, well, that's how it's always been done. Well, they started doing paranormal research in the dark when it started off in the the seance rooms when during the table tipping and all that stuff. They needed it to be dark, so the researchers would go in there in the dark, and it was dark. So when they started coming to the modern age. They go, well, they did it in the dark before. I guess we got to do it in the dark now. And it played into TV and a lot of really bad science and stuff. I don't know why, if you're trying to do a science experiment, like I'm going to mix a bunch of chemicals, I got an idea, I'm going to turn all the lights off and let's do it. It's like wiping before you poop. It makes no sense. I don't get it.
I have usually referred to that as tribal knowledge. Because it comes up as in like, oh, everyone's done it that way. That's why we're doing it. That's how it's
always been done. So that's how we do it. And it's actually a bias. It's called the status quo bias.
Right.
And I really think that we're starting to overcome that. And a lot of that would be it plays in with like the bandwagon effect with like orbs.
Yeah.
Where, the bandwagon effect. Everybody wants to be a part of something. You want to believe. You want to be a part of it, and a lot of it non-ghost hunting related would be like voting. Like people vote. I don't want to get political. People vote party lines, even though they may not agree with the candidate because they're part of that. They're part of that group. They want to be part of the group. Or a lot of it would be people believe something on their own because everyone else does without doing their own independent research. The big one would be one that we overcame, I feel at least, would be like orbs. When you really research orbs, they came down to, what is his name? I'm not sure if I can say someone's name on the air, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Dave Oster, I think.
Dave Oster. Yes.
The International Ghost Hunting Society.
Yes.
And when ghost hunting started to become more popular, and when the internet was just starting up, in the infancy stage of the internet. I think it was. I wish I could find a link to the article. When I took one of my parapsychology classes at the Ryan Institute, Lloyd Auerbach actually referenced this article and referenced the history of orbs, which is where I learned it was actually pretty cool.
I think I know what you're talking about, because it got its origins in UFO pictures.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know this was when he started taking the pictures. He started showing the problem. I mean, it may be related, but the problem was faulty logic. Was that he would see these orbs and he couldn't explain them, and the orbs were at haunted houses. These haunted houses. So if these houses are haunted, then these orbs, these anomalies, must be ghosts. Which would be like saying, I take a picture of the chair here because the chair is in a haunted house, so therefore the chair must be a ghost. It doesn't make any sense. It was during the age, when the internet was starting to grow and so it kind of overcame and became, almost internet fact, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Right.
And, especially in the 90s when camera phones, and I mean, you could probably do a whole, a lot more about this than me, but the focal point, inverted focal point of lenses, when the dust would get, really close, it would, and the closer the flash got to the lens, the light would reflect off, would be out of focus and come back in, especially with digital cameras with the CCD versus film. So anyway, it just started, orbs started going crazy. People started believing in orbs. Everybody went, at one point, this guy believed in orbs. I was super excited for a piece of dust or an insect because everyone else believed it. I'm like, look, this guy says it. This guy says it. It has to be right. I don't got to research anything myself. I don't got to do experiments on my own or do, trial and error. Everyone says it's true. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and I'm part of it. And, look at my awesome ghost. I put a circle around it. You see it?
Right. The red circle. Dave Oster, we met him many, many, many years ago.
I would love to meet him before he passed away.
Yeah. He was an interesting character. Would not listen to anything. He would be one person you just can't discuss with because he had his beliefs. And I think partially it was based on the popularity that he gained through that, because as you said, like, it was the beginning of the internet craze where the internet was really, it was still new to everyone, to the general public. Yeah. And ghost hunting as a popular pop culture kind of hobby was still new. Where everyone could access it.
People are starting to talk about it now.
Yes.
Yep.
It was coming out more, and he was at the forefront. He was the first to run conferences in Gettysburg, where it got everybody out there and saying, "Hey, I have his books." Between him and his wife, yes, where he puts a whole bunch of pictures up about orbs, and he talks about them. So, but I did try to talk. I remember distinct, like, I was on Sachs Covered Bridge with him.
Yes, Ryan. Of course, it's a mojito. What would you expect any less?
And we were talking. Somebody took a picture with a Sony Mavica because they were the first digital cameras when he was popular. Mm-hmm. They were the digital cameras at the time. Somebody came up to him, showed him a picture, and he's like, "Yeah, that's definitely, you got a ghost. You got two ghosts right there, the ghost orbs." And I looked at it and said, "No. That's the road up there. You got headlights coming towards you." And I actually identified the car. I knew what car it was because of distinctive headlights. And I was like, we can go out into the parking lot. I can show you which car it was that pulled up. Wouldn't talk to me after that. He was done talking to me. So that was kind of the end of that relationship. But I get what you're saying. Like, that beginning, that started this whole tribal knowledge or status quo, where it's like, okay, you can only investigate in the dark. You have to use digital recorders or audio recorders, and you have to ask questions to get answers. And any little thing, any noise is a response to your question.
Yep, no matter what it is.
And then, like, EMF meters, they were big because the first ones that I remember using were the Dr. Gall's meters, which are the simple. I actually have one, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
So these things.
That was my first one too.
Yeah. So these were the popular ones to get before the K2, and
the cell sensor came after that.
The cell
one had
sensor.
a little,
Yeah, with the
Little
external sensor
antenna,
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was such shit.
An interesting thing too, what I learned about that through the EMF, the parapsychology class that I took, was that they actually found that they don't think that ghosts necessarily give off this EMF, because all it is just it's a force particle. I mean it's EMF. It's everywhere. Anything can do it. Anything can really affect it. Matter of fact, they actually have really high tech alarm systems that will actually pick up your own electrical current. Even like if you get the tri-field meter.
Yeah.
It'll actually pick up your own. If you wave your hand in front of it or walk around, wearing socks, it will, or on carpet, it will actually go off. And there's actually very sophisticated alarms that will pick up your own body's, EMF, and you're actually just disrupting the natural field. But anyway, I digress. They found that houses that had unexplained activity could sometimes have higher than normal EMF field, or EMF fields, EMF readings, and they never said that ghosts give off EMF or ghosts can interfere with EMF. All they said is that, hey, here's this cause, or here's this effect. We don't know the cause, but there's just something strange in some of these cases, and they never said that ghosts give off EMF. I mean, how would we don't even know what a ghost is, so how do we know that a ghost could affect an electromagnetic field? This is something
Dave Schumacher has brought up a bunch of times when we talk about EMF, because we actually, the three of us on the 3TS show, we did a study together. Mostly it was Dave, but bringing up the fact that yes, even during studies where they were looking into electromagnetic fields and how they are associated with alleged hauntings, they found elevated cases, but they didn't find a source.
Yeah.
They didn't determine or conclude that it was paranormal, because you can't. You really can't. And that's the big thing. When studies come up or when people bring up EMF, it's like, all right, so you have a elevated EMF in that area. What's that mean? It doesn't mean
unless you have a personal experience that goes along with it. All you have is an abnormal, and that goes into sampling bias. Which we'll talk about later. We're talking about taking EMF.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
When you're going around and people taking their base readings for in the house, you're there for 20 minutes, an hour. When you're walking around, how do you know that the low reading isn't the normal and the high reading is actually the high?
Right.
You have to have so many samples in order to get an accurate reading.
You can't go through a house, a normal, let's say a 3-bedroom private home. You can't go through in 20 minutes and expect to have base readings. That's just it's ludicrous. It really is. You need
to go through constantly, or have like data. We use a lot of data logging equipment.
Yes.
That we use, so that way we can see. And again, unless we have an experience, like something actually happens that we can correlate, the data to an experience or to something. All it is just data. It doesn't mean really anything.
I think, well, I mean, if you can,
unless you can correlate it
over
to
time,
something.
It's over time. If you can find an anomaly, and when I say anomaly, I mean something that's not within the normal pattern over like months or years. If you find an anomaly over that time frame, then like by all means go for it. Like figure out what's going on. But even experiences, if someone has a personal experiences, we're talking literally about biases, and that comes into play, because what is your experience actually an experience, or is it based off of your biases going in? Like, because quote unquote, this place is haunted.
Oh yeah.
So, that there's a problem.
So it just plays into it. Like, if you had an experience, I mean, and say you're investigating a particular claim, saying that this door opens, the door opens all the time, and you have, like our equipment, it measures, wind speed, direction, barometric pressure, humidity, whatever. We have, you have one on each side of the door, and all of a sudden that door opens, and there's no wind. You make sure you do your whole check of the house, the air conditioning off, the heaters off, all the windows are shut. You do as much control as you possibly can, and then all of a sudden, and then say you get no data. Well, then I got a weird experience, the door open. But then all of a sudden, say you start getting some alpha particles and beta particles, and EMF goes up, the temperature drops, and you have this environmental change with a piece, with the door, with the claim actually happening, with the door moving. Then you have something. You have
something to look into.
You have a weird anomaly with an environmental change.
That's I always say, like, something like that. That's something. That's a starting point.
Yep.
Like, all right, we have something strange.
More questions and answers at that point. So
yeah. You had a question?
We had a question in the chat room.
Oh, I thought you had a question.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was.
But yeah, that's good. I agree with that. Yeah, like you have a starting point, and too many people just take that as, oh, that's paranormal, and they run with it, where it's not. We haven't established that.
I've had a door open and shut on me, and actually shut on my friend Andy, who was behind me, and actually almost kind of knocked him out inside of the hallway. And I mean, I had the door shut. I mean, it was I can't explain it. He can't explain it. But what happened?
Right.
I wish I had my data logging equipment then, but that's when I was walking around. Everything was a ghost. I had my cell sensor out and I'm waving it around with my cell phone on in my pocket. Not taking. But yeah. So
right. Did you find anything? No.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead. Rob Palmer. What biases do you see in the folks promoting the current UAV flap? Oh, unidentified aerial phenomena or vehicles. Vehicles? I thought it was UAP, not UAV. I've seen the pilots discussing their observations as having to be accurate, ignoring possible human error, and it drives me nuts. So, what he's referring to is
familiar with that with UFOs a whole lot, or the
unidentified aerial. It should be a phenomenon, I think, but it could be vehicles. And I think the problem is basically it's these pilots. I don't know how to approach this. I think they do ignore human error. I think they do ignore the logical explanations, and I think they're riding the wave of popularity right now. That's my personal opinion. It's not a breakdown, a scientific breakdown or anything like that. I see it as they're popular about something and they're riding the wave. Basically, that's what I see. Because it's in the news, it's in the media. Everyone's
diagnosis bias too.
Yeah.
Where you label it, based on your first initial opinion and your own personal thoughts, and the first thing that comes to mind, you're diagnosing it as, this is what it is.
Okay.
And a lot of that can be, again, based on the media with the I forget what's that called, the I forget what it's called. I'm sorry. Sorry. It's where you only know what you know. Pretty much, no matter where you get the sources of information from.
Right.
So if it's hot inside of the media and it's hot and fresh inside of your mind, you may say it's what it is.
Yeah, and if you don't continue to learn or continue to look into it, you're kind of stagnant. You're going to stay right there. You're not going to move forward. You're not going to progress. But looking into more and more of these reports, I've looked into a lot of them, and most of the time, a friend of mine, mutual friend of me and Rob too, Mick West, has gone into great detail of explaining a lot of these videos. So there are explanations, and I think they're being ignored because it's not the popular opinion. Once you get in the media and they're grabbing it, and I think the spotlight gets on you, and it's like, oh yeah, look at me. Let me tell my story. I don't know what it was. And honestly, that's true, because a lot of these videos that we see, they're showing aircraft, but you can't identify it because they're so far off. And that's the problem. They're not actually lying by saying they're unidentified, because yes, you cannot.
You're making the assumption that they're extraterrestrial, not unidentified.
It. Yeah,
it could be test aircraft, from the Air Force or the military.
Yeah, or just regular aircraft. I mean, there's commercial aircraft.
Or Superman or.
Well, hey now. Okay, Superman. All right. So
we're up to date on questions.
We're up to date. Okay,
so
cool.
Whatever you guys want to talk about.
We still got a few minutes left. So what else do you got?
I got just a few more.
Sure.
We're talking about like the sampling. I kind of link them together, the sampling and outcome bias. We were talking a little bit before about collecting samples, but a big one when it comes to the paranormal would be like if you capture a piece of evidence or a piece of data, like a photo, and you put it on a ghost hunting webpage and say, what do you guys think about this? Right. A lot of times you're going to get great catch, good job, man. You're not going to get everyone there, believes already, that's what it is. You want to get an unbiased opinion. You got to go outside of your normal, I guess, like your wheelhouse or your friends and get, almost like professional opinions. Like if I capture something, sure, I'll put it on a ghost hunting page and people might want to look at it and, oh, cool. But if I capture something I really can't explain, I'm going to send it to somebody like you. Give me your expert opinion on this.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what you should do. But we don't see that a lot. Right.
And I think that's one of the biases. And they think I sent this out and I got opinions from them, but those opinions you got are biased because they're from people who are already on your same page, your train of thought. They're not gonna try to challenge it, and you want someone to challenge it, someone from the opposite side, in order so it's not biased.
Right. Actually, I mean that's something I do where I that's why I attend paranormal conferences. I attend science conferences and skeptical promoted conferences, and I love them. I absolutely love them. But I also go to paranormal conferences because I want to see what's on the other side. I want to see what their opinions are, why they believe this stuff. So you have to look on each side. And as you said, you got to break outside of your circle.
Absolutely.
If you're preaching to the choir, because that's pretty much what you're doing when you are a ghost hunter, you think you got a ghost photo and you only post it to ghost hunting type websites or social groups, you're going to get that kind of opinion back. You're not going to get any kind of criticism. And even though
you're not going to learn and the field's not really going to grow,
you're not going to get any kind of
and it can make you better. Back. Like, say, hey, I saw it was taken, in a low light setting, and your shutter speed was, change your camera to make it this or make it that, or try adding this light to it, or try doing, and getting opinions that actually to help you grow and to make things actually better. Right.
That's great. I love that. Mm-hmm. All right, what else we got?
That's what I was talking about. I couldn't remember what it was called. It's the available heuristic bias, which is where you base information only offhand. We're kind of talking about how it feeds into the UFO phenomena, and it also feeds into the bandwagon effect or the bandwagon bias, where you make decisions, only off of firsthand information, and only it's stories, stuff you see on TV, and not actual facts or statistics.
Okay.
Like a non-paranormal view of this would be during 9/11, like during the terrorist attacks, where people were scared to death of being killed by a terrorist. And the media played into it, and I'm not at all, downplaying the terrible events of 9/11. I'm not,
right.
But people, people were legitimately scared, very scared of an impending terrorist attack, which, it could happen. But you're actually 55 more times likely to be killed by your TV falling on you and killing you, or a coconut hitting you, 200 more times likely than a coconut hitting you in the head than dying in a terrorist attack. But if you ask people, do you think you're going to die in a terrorist attack during that time? If they sampled people during that time, they would think their chances were higher. And it's really not, because they're basing on the information they're getting immediately firsthand information. And again, it also plays into the anchoring bias and how they all kind of intertwine together.
Okay.
So in a lot would be playing into the paranormal, like again the like when a new movie or something, a new demon movie or something comes out, based on a true story, this, that, or the other, and all of a sudden, people may start feeding into it and start thinking all these, things are happening, or their house is haunted, or you just got to keep in mind, if you're an investigator, always ask, I always ask them, like, what kind of TV shows do you like? What kind of books do you like to read?
Right.
And what's your knowledge on the paranormal, and just try to get a judge to see if maybe something new, something new came out, if they're playing into it and basing decisions, off of this.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they saw that movie and now they're trying to fill in the blanks, because they're trying to remember what happened, and their brain's filling it in, and they're really scared. They think they believe something's happening. and they know A happened, and they know C happened, and they're trying to fill in B. And like, wait a minute, that kind of sounds a little bit like that movie or this show or that book, or
Right.
it can play into it. So it just comes down to having really good interview skills.
And that's actually a good example. I don't know if that's the right word, or a good reason to keep up on horror movies. Like I watch horror movies, even though I'm not into, like, I like horror movies, but I'm not like a big horror fan, but I still watch them. And I watch a lot of the TV series because of research, because of examples like this. Because if somebody starts telling me a story and I start thinking, oh, well, wait a minute, this really follows along with the plot of, so-and-so movie, like horror X movie, then I can follow along and predict. And if I start offering suggestions like, oh, did this happen? And they're like, yeah. Like, all right, that's exactly the plot of this movie. What's going on here? And asking questions such as, what are you into? Do you watch horror movies? What have you watched lately? Yes, can have an influence on what people think they saw. Because the I don't know if that's the God of the gaps. If you have gaps in your memory, you start filling it in.
Yep.
Because
and that's normal.
Yes, we naturally do that.
You want to be, people want to be helpful. They want to give you the information. So if they don't know it, they may just give you the information, whether it's true or not, because they actually want to be helpful, that they want this issue, to be solved.
Right. And yeah, they want to give you as much information as possible. They want to be helpful. And I guess the idea of not knowing is hard for people. Like, I have no problem saying I don't know.
Me neither. I don't know it. I don't know it.
Yeah. But I've come across so many people that when you get them stuck, when they're in that position where they don't really know, they start looking around like, oh, all right, I got to think of something. And then they fill in the blanks. And you kind of get that sense that it's bullshit. And when you start questioning them, you find out, yes, it is bullshit. That it didn't really happen that way.
So, but they may not be lying to you to be deceitful. They just may want to be helpful, and they're trying to fill in the blank.
Yes.
Because I find that a lot also in law enforcement, sometimes people want to be helpful. Well, did you see this? Well, I kind of only heard it. Well, what did you hear then? You can still be helpful. Tell me what you heard. Not what you saw.
Right. Yeah. Good. Yeah. All right, we are we're almost there. We can do one more. You got one more?
I've only had one more. And
all right, let's get it. Let's finish it up.
It's not really necessarily a bias, and I'm still learning on this. So if anyone in the comments knows a little more than me, please feel free to put it in there. But it's about like flashbulb memory theory, kind of like what we were just talking about, where your brain wants to fill in gaps.
Okay.
So when you have a traumatic event, and I'm playing into the paranormal here, or something traumatic happens where somebody thinks something super scary happened to them, your brain will actually create a very, very strong memory. And then when you go to recall the memory, the further you get from time, the more time passes, the more details will actually change. But the problem is that it's such a very vivid memory, and that your brain will actually convince yourself that for a fact that is what happened. So when someone sees a ghost, their story will actually change over time. And again, a big example of this was during 9/11. Hang on, let me pull this note up real here. Hang on one second. Because they actually did a study during it. And they had people write down the day after 9/11, write down exactly where you were, what happened, tell me, where you were, as much detail as you possibly could. And then they had them recall it. I think it was, hang on one second, I lost my slide. Sorry, guys. I lost the slide. Hang on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Hang on. Sorry. I pulled up. So they have them try to rehearse the memory and bring it back up. And they did it 1 week, 1 year, 3 years, and 10 years. Well, the 3-year period, their memory was degraded on the fine details by 57%. But they believed wholeheartedly. Like they go, no. I was sitting in my chair in my living room, and like, well, on the day what had happened, you said you were standing in the office. I'm not saying they're that far apart, but I'm just giving an example. A rough example here. I just have the study numbers. I don't have the particular details that were in the study, unfortunately. But and then after about 10 years, it stayed about the same at 57%. So almost 60% of their memory that they believe happened has actually changed. And if you ask them, like if I ask you, where were you during 9/11? I can tell you exactly where I was sitting, what I was doing, everything to detail what happened. But how much of that can I really trust? Because over time, your brain degrades it, but it has to do with the release of cortisone, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, inside of your brain when it creates that memory. It actually goes to a different part of the brain, supposedly, when it creates this memory. And there's problems with trying to recall it, and your brain just kind of fills in the blanks.
Yeah.
Because you believe at 100% that that's what happened. So when it comes into the paranormal, if somebody has if it's a very scary, a very bad experience, for them, and they tell you what happens, like, oh, I was sitting down and this, that, and something else happened, and then a couple of years later, their story changes. Or if you're doing research on a case, and all of a sudden their story changes when they're telling the story, they may not necessarily be lying. Their brain may be saying, well, no, that's not what happened. What happened, was this, because they actually forgot, and their brain is filling in the blanks. And keep in mind, because this is about biases, so sometimes your brain's going to shortcut it, and it may go in and fill in with a bias, with something that you may be biased towards or against.
Right. And there's been there's historical events, such as Challenger exploding. I mean, that could be considered a flashbulb event for my generation, because we were in school. I was in school. JFK, the assassination, definitely an event like that. And it's something that's traumatic. It's nationwide, it's worldwide, really.
And they can be positive, or negative. Like, do you remember where you were when you proposed to Donna?
Yeah.
So how much of that memory, I can tell you exactly everything I remember when I proposed to Randy, but how much of that do I really remember,
Yeah, we don't know, because
it could be positive and it could be negative.
To us,
those clouds.
Well, why do you think your memory would do that? Like, it
just degrades over time. Your brain's smart, but again, your brain's dumb. And it wants you to remember, and it wants to be helpful. And it says, well, I remember A and C, but I don't remember quite what happened in B, and it kind of fills in the gap to complete the memory when you go to recall it.
It comes down to that you can't remember everything. Like, if you go back to yesterday, do you remember every single thing that you did? You didn't.
No, but when it comes to 9/11, I feel like I remember exactly where I was.
That's the point.
Everybody does, and
everybody does. Yeah.
I mean, everybody remembers where it was, but you just may not be able to trust all the fine details in it.
Okay.
So you can remember
sitting down, on my couch. You may be sitting down on the chair.
I was at work in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah, how's that drink?
It's really good because Donna made them.
You need another one, Donna.
Donna's feeling good.
Donna didn't make Kenny's tonight, and Kenny is not as wasted.
The thing is, we don't have infinite space in our brains, so we can't remember every detail.
I am totally against on that, because I don't remember shit.
But even big events that happen, we can remember the general idea of what happened. Okay, we can, like for Challenger, we can remember that it launched.
I know where
Challenger
I was.
went up.
I know where I
Challenger
was
went
when
up.
That happened.
Didn't make it. Didn't break through to space. It exploded.
Yeah.
Everyone was died. We know there was a teacher on it.
Yeah.
We know these fine details, but exactly what was going on right before, right after.
Like I remember we were in 8th grade sitting in class, and we were watching it on TV live.
In 8th grade.
Yeah, that's the general detail. It's not actually the fine details that he's talking about. And this is what's important when you come down to
interviewing,
especially like crime scenes.
Yeah.
When you're looking for fine details of the alleged criminal, or the witnesses, or the victim, or stuff like that, when the fine details are called into question, it's hard to recall them because we just don't pay attention to all that stuff.
Especially during a traumatic event, your brain is on overload, and you may not be able to recall all that, so your brain kind of just fills in the information.
Yes. I would suggest Elizabeth Loftus. Look her up. Look up her books on memory. She is the foremost leader in the world on memory research, and her books are amazing. I know I have one. I have a couple over here. I actually have them autographed too because I got to meet her 2 years ago, and amazing woman, amazing author, and just the research that she does on memory is just, it blows your mind. So, but all right, so we are at two.
I had one more slide, and then it's done. It's just how we can disengage. Oh God, sorry, the dog just fell and hit his head. He stood up and hit his head and he fell. Come here, buddy.
Poor baby. Were you feeding him some alcohol? Like, what the hell?
Oh no, of course not.
He got up and hit his head. What dog is that?
What do you got?
Sorry. So, just how we can disengage from our biases.
Okay.
And when it comes to our personal biases, just realize that it's a part of life, and we do them. They're mostly, either unconscious, subconscious. We don't know we're doing them. Just be observant. Explore areas of discomfort and engage in groups of people who you don't necessarily consider their views. Like if you don't agree in psychics, go and talk to the psychics. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the research, make sure you use multiple people to collect data. Don't just make sure you're using a good sample. Always do good quality peer review. Check for alternative explanations on anything, that any piece of evidence or any piece of data, any experience that you have. Always look for all and any, and not accept, but at least consider, alternative explanations. Make sure you get feedback and verify wherever you're getting your sources from data from. You always want to try to get firsthand stories, firsthand accounts. Stop it, dog. Yeah.
That's good. He's a giant shepherd.
He forgets. Ringo, come on. He's spinning under the table right now. Here, there he is.
Oh, there you
Hi,
go.
Baby.
Hi, buddy.
Look how cute you are.
Beautiful dog. Beautiful. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think I would add on to that. Just question yourself. If people bring up stuff like you're biased, or if they accuse you of something along those lines, think about it. Don't react like a knee-jerk reaction where you're like, no, I'm not. I know what I'm talking about. Really look at what you're saying. Look at what you're thinking, and consider, like, am I doing this because of my beliefs, and just because I want to do it in spite of them? Ask others outside of your circle. Definitely go outside of your circle, and I do that all the time. I'm lucky enough to have people, especially that I do a show with on Saturday nights, where they have different opinions, and I can say, hey, what do you think about this? And I get honest opinions. They're not afraid to tell me what they think, even if it disagrees with me. They're not afraid of it, and I love that. I love that about the conversations we have. So
absolutely,
look at what you're saying. Make sure you're not basing it off of belief. Base your information. Yes, go from the facts, not your beliefs. I tell everyone, just leave your beliefs at home. Go do your thing, come back. When you're back at home, pick up your beliefs and have fun. But leave them at home.
Have fun.
Kenny, I have a haunted cat. You want to take it for your experiments? No, I do not do cats. Nope, I'm allergic to them.
Well, we're going on vacation, and Ringo only sees ghosts during that week, and we're looking for a dog sitter. So if you want to,
I'll watch your puppy for you.
No, because that kind of dog sheds, and that will kill my allergies.
I said I would.
All right, so Donna will come to your place, and she will stay there for the week.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And that'll make I'll be able to get a lot of work done around here.
Oh, like I stopped you from doing work.
All right.
Whatever.
All right. So where can people find you if they want to know more information?
Oh, we're on Facebook at Baltimore Paranormal, and also on the internet at hauntedhelp.weebly.com.
Cool. And you're going to be at the Bash, the Gettysburg
Medical Bash. I was talking to them to try to see if they had any slots for any open speakers. But from when they canceled from last year, they had to kind of backfill everybody. And I told them if you happen to have an opening, on Saturday, let me know. I'll do it last minute, if need be. So,
okay. Awesome. I hope they do. I hope they get it.
And I just want to thank you, Kenny, for having me on. And I want to thank, I saw some of my friends all in the chat.
Awesome.
Brian, Ryan, Anna, Jess, Dave in the chat. I appreciate you guys coming, and everybody else in the chat. Thank you. And thank you for your questions.
There's a Nikki out there asking if we're taking questions, and we are. If you want to,
if you want to get a last question, I want to do my announcements. But Nikki, if you've got a question you want to throw in there real quick,
throw it in.
I'll do it. But let me put my announcements up.
Jess, I forgot Jess. Thanks, Jess.
I am going. It might partially cover you, but let's see.
Go for it.
All right, these are Bob's announcements. So let's see, July 18th. That's passed. So I'm not doing it. I have to update it. So sorry. Other way. There you go. It's always backwards. So that I always look for Leia. I know where Leia is, so I'm good. So let's see. August 20th to 22nd is the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. I'll be out there.
I'll see you there.
Yes, you will be there Saturday, right?
Yep.
I'll be there all weekend. I have a booth set up. I'm going to have my Skeptical Help booth set up here, so it looks like one of these. Donna, producer Donna, will be out there with her Lucky Tiki Creations, and she'll be selling her crafts. September 25th is the Para-Unity Conference. I like the Vanna White thing he's doing. I like that. So that's in Woodbridge, New Jersey. We will both be out there. We'll both be setting up.
So you're setting your booth up?
Yes.
Yeah, they're actually giving them a booth.
Yeah, they actually, it's a long story, but I'm going to be setting a booth up there, which is good. I actually think that's really good. And then October 9th, down there, yes, Selma Mansion Psychic Fair. I will be at. Donna is setting up her booth, and I will be helping her. So that means I'll be prowling around all the psychics that are hanging out there. So right now, that's all I have for upcoming events. I have a few podcasts that I'll be guesting on, but
we're gonna update them for next.
Yeah, I gotta update it, but I usually try to put the bigger events up there because the podcasts change frequently. So I'm never sure what I'm doing or when I'm doing it. So there you go. And I have some other projects that, if you want to, let me put that back up there real quick. If you want to become a patron of mine, up top here, you can sign up for a patron and get behind the scenes information, because I do have some secret projects that I'm working on that I'm going to be posting about lately. But you have to become a patron to do that. There's 3 levels there. So if you're interested, that just pretty much helps me out with all the work I do. So with that, we had a question. You had a question up? Let me see.
I'm looking. I don't. Nobody
did she put up a question?
No.
Oh, she didn't. Okay. Maybe she just was wondering if we had questions. But it looks like everyone is happy that you came on.
Yeah.
Everyone enjoyed your talk.
Again, thank you so very much for having me on your show.
Anytime, dude. I enjoyed it, and I know, like, during your presentation, I know you were nervous, a little bit nervous, but it was great. I thought it was great.
Tonight was excellent.
Yeah. And tonight was great. I love talking about biases because it's something that we all really need to understand. We need to not only understand it, but we need to understand that we all do it.
And we all have
and it's okay.
Yeah. And
we all do it, and it's okay.
It's okay,
but
as long as you work on it.
You try to have to recognize it.
Like, people have the negative connotation of biases. Oh, I'm not biased. Everyone's biased, and it's okay because it helps you get through your day to day.
Yeah,
that's the context of what I meant in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I remember, hearing your speech out in Gettysburg. Like since then, I've been so conscious of some of the biases that I have, and if I didn't hear your show, I would never even thought about it.
See, look at that. You're influencing people.
Yeah.
In a positive way, and that's
exactly
point.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the point of it.
I never thought about like certain biases that I actually have, and I'm actually working on kind of adjusting them and correcting them to, where they should be, and not,
being a dick.
Yeah. Well, you like everybody has them. So
Right. We all have them,
you know,
and
just seeing somebody holding a sign on a street corner, you know, like what do you think of that person?
Yep.
Some people think, you know, they're just out for money. Some people think, you know, they believe that they really need help. Some people just go by and don't even recognize them. So it's
you
like
don't even see them. Yep. Depending on where you're at.
You know, unless you actually stop and talk to the person, you don't really know their story.
One of the best at. Do you have to go anywhere? Do you have to go anywhere? You're good? Okay. I don't want to hold you up. But one of the best conversations that I've had in a long time was when I went to the local Wawa, and there's a guy that sits out there. I mean, I think he's homeless. I know after I talked to him, but he's homeless, but he hangs out there. And I went in just on a whim. I was like, you know what? I don't know what this guy is. And I had that bias, and I thought about it. Like, this is probably just some guy. Maybe he's just sitting there. He's trying to get money, you know, the easy way. But you know what? Maybe I should just talk to him. Maybe I should talk. So I went in, I got some food for both of us, sat outside, and I sat down next to him, and I talked to him, and we had a conversation. I found out that he lost his job. You know, he didn't have anyone to fall back on, so he's kind of on his own. And we sat there for like an hour and just talked, and we had a good conversation, and it was nice. And I wish I could do more for him. You know, but
I actually like. I used to work a secondary employment job, you know, for law enforcement, where they'd have a lot of normal homeless people. But I'd see like somebody who I didn't, you know, recognize before, and instead of going and throwing them, you know, off the property, I'd bring them in, you know, buy them a hot dog and some food, you know, get them out of the cold for a little bit, and sit down. The same thing. I'd have a conversation. I'd learn all kinds of things from them, you know, and actually sit down and talk to them. You got to treat them like you know, treat everybody the same. Treat everybody the same, and treat them like human beings. And you'd be surprised how appreciative, you know, people can be.
Right. And bringing it back to the whole paranormal thing, realizing you have biases can help you improve the quality of your work.
Absolutely.
If you realize, like, I can't just assume that anything that I personally can't explain, I can't just say that's paranormal. I can't explain it. Yeah, there's other reasons. There's other information that I'm not aware of that I should really talk to other people and find out what they think. Do I have a belief already, and I'm just accepting because I have that belief, not because there's actually evidence or data for it? You know, that there's a lot to look into, and I think shows like this are important for people to not only see and learn about, but maybe just make them think.
Aware. Just make aware of your own biases.
Maybe they'll go away.
Just think about it. It's like, you know, you walk around every day, you know, and sometimes you don't think about a bias. Like, you might just see somebody standing on the corner, and you're like, all of a sudden you're, you know, just because of who they are or what they look like, you might be like, oh, that's like trash.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe it's not. Like,
down the luck, having a hard time. They lost their job.
Exactly.
They lost their house.
Exactly. And that's what you opened my eyes to.
Especially in recent times.
Yeah.
Like in recent times,
hard.
Biases have just been controlling our lives and our media.
And,
you know?
and in our area, like, we live very close to the city. So you see people on almost every corner with signs begging for money, you know, and it's hard to, you know, like, who really needs it. Some people are frauding you because they get hundreds of dollars a day standing on a corner, you know, but, you know, do they really need the money? Or, you know,
or are they scamming us?
Or are they scamming us?
You know,
because they know they're making tons of money.
Their 8-hour shift, they walk over to their Mercedes and they drive home.
Like,
you know, like,
so it's so
but I get
hard this day and age to you know, look at those biases and try to zone in.
So at the end,
I'm glad you learned. I'm glad you enjoyed and actually took something out of it. That makes me really happy.
Oh yeah,
we all did. We all did.
I mean, I really enjoyed it.
After your presentation, we all got together back at the booth and we were talking about you. We were talking shit about you. No, we were all talking about how good it was and how we enjoyed it, because it was really good information. And
I say, if anyone out there's looking the book speaker, I said,
That's what.
I don't have anything planned. I'm trying to crack my way, into these conventions and events, but it's just kind of hard, especially with my schedule. I happen to be able to be off for the bash. Unfortunately, they're full. Maybe they might have an opening for me, or
it would be worth it. I think it would be worth it because instead of hearing another ghost hunter talk about ghost gadgets or ghost hunting and just the same old shit,
you can learn something. You come see me and you can learn something from it. It can actually help you in the paranormal and help your real life.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this because it was good and it made us think. It made us fun.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it had nothing to do with ghost hunting. I mean, it was actually real life. Like, I'm actually more just familiar with, like, I'm more aware of what my biases are, not even realizing that I had them. But yeah, I'm more aware of them.
Cool.
And that was actually part of the class, and that's why I tied it into your biases and how how they relate to you. But it's paranormal, so how they relate to paranormal. So hopefully, it actually helps people on the personal life and the paranormal.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah.
All right, good show, dude. That was great. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you hung out. We went over. I love when we go over because people are interested. They're still hanging out.
Yeah, everybody's still here.
We really have to see. That's awesome. So, all right. I guess that's it. That's it. We did announcements. He did his where we can contact him, and
we're saying thank you 10 minutes ago.
Awesome. So
everybody,
all right,
love the show.
Everyone, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for chilling. You hang out for a minute, Aaron, and everyone else. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Be nice to each other. Help each other out. Learn something. Oh, read a book. This is what I forgot. Invisible Gorilla. Everyday Bias.
Everyday Bias.
There you go.
Hold that back up again.
Hold that back up. Yeah. Who's that by?
It is by Howard Ross.
Ross.
And this is by Christopher Chabris. I'm going to put that up there.
So people can
and Daniel Simmons. There
you go.
Good book. It's based on a video that he talked about with the invisible gorilla that goes among the people that are passing the ball back. Really good book. Definitely go and read it. But again, have a good weekend. And remember, never stop learning. See you next week.